Hello again. I've recently been fixing some Honor 8 phones. I've been practicing only glass repair on these, so replacing only the glass while keeping the old LCD. However, after a successful glass replacement, I've noticed that upgrading these phones' software, even to the latest officially available version, is surprisingly even more difficult than fixing the screen. Not that it has to be, but it turns out Huawei is doing everything in their power to make the lives of people using their older phones as difficult as possible. So after wasting days of my life in order to update this phone to official Android 8 and from there on to Android 9 ROM, I decided to make this how-to video so that it would hopefully save someone else some time. Okay, so here we have an Honor 8 phone. It's FRDL19 model, so it's 64GB version, and here you can see Android version 7.0, and in the build number it says test keys because I've unsuccessfully tried upgrading this one into Android 8, so it's left the phone in a weird state. So the first thing I'm gonna do is to try to return it to a normal state in Android 7. So normally that wouldn't be an issue with an Android phone. You would just reflash the stock ROM and you would be back to a working phone in most cases quite easily. However, with an old Huawei phone it's not that easy. This is where multiple bad and, in my opinion, anti-consumer practices Huawei is engaging in come in. Firstly, all the official ways to update the phone or to restore it to stock have stopped working. Some changes Huawei server side have been done and you cannot upgrade or restore this phone to stock using eRecovery, OTA update or HI Suite PC software. Well, there's still the manual way to update the phone via the deload folder on the SD card, but I also couldn't get this to work because even with this method the phone is really picky at which software you need to be in order to use a certain update package. In other words, the update packages aren't full software packages, they're only designed to apply on top of certain software already on the phone. If the update package detects a wrong Android version or a wrong country software version, it won't install. Oh, by the way, you can't even manually download them from Huawei's website anymore. They've removed them from their servers. So good luck hunting for the right software package for your phone around the internet. I couldn't find one that would work for mine. So what now? Is the phone forever stuck to Android 7? Well, luckily not. There's one more thing we can try. It turns out Huawei did release full update packages, but they only gave those to repair centers if I understand correctly, and those softwares are called service firmwares. So a service firmware will fully reflash the phone no matter what software version it has. So that will make possible to reflash this phone into a normal Android 7 state. So preparing the SD card for the process, I've moved the deload folder which contains the service firmware onto the SD card, and I've also made a folder on the SD card named HUR Updater, and that will be how I'll be updating this to Android 8 after I've installed the service firmware. So on this folder there's the HUR Updater and update all HUB and update data public. HUR Updater file has been downloaded from XDA developers and all the other files have been copied to the SD card from a Oreo update package. They have to be renamed in this way for the HUR Updater to recognize them. I'll explain later when we get to that point. Okay, so now the SD card is ready and I'll insert it into the phone. Next, I'll show what you need to have on the computer side in order to do this. So, I have minimal ADB and fastboot installed here, and in this folder I have the WRP images for Android 7 and for Android 8. Also, I have the LineageOS Android 9 ROM. If you want to upgrade to LineageOS Android 9 custom ROM, you of course need to have the image here. Also, if you want the LineageOS, you'll need to unlock the bootloader of your phone, and that cannot be done officially anymore since Huawei stopped providing unlock codes for bootloaders. So only way you can unlock your bootloader for free on a Huawei phone is Potato NV. This awesome software doesn't read the bootloader code, but it rewrites it so that you can unlock the bootloader with the code you rewrote on the device. The drawback is that you need to open the phone's back cover because you need to sort some pins on the inside of the phone. But for me that's not a problem since I already have disassembled this phone because I've replaced the glass on this phone. In the same process I'm also replacing the back glass, but I've not glued the new back glass on yet. For instructions on how to remove the back glass, I recommend watching a video about the disassembly of this phone. So here I am using tweezers to sort this one contact point onto the metal shielding inside the phone, and while I'm holding the tweezers here, I plug in the USB cable onto the computer. It's already plugged into the phone. By the way, this mode is called the test point mode for Huawei phones, and this requires you to have test point drivers installed on the computer. Test point drivers are on the GitHub page where you can download Potato NV. The phone is successfully connected in test point mode when the target device shows COM 1.0. If it doesn't, unplug battery and try again. In the bootloader field, you need to choose Kirin 950 for Honor 8. After this you can press start, and after a while it will give you a new unlock code. I recommend saving that code somewhere because after you install the back cover back on the phone, you can't rewrite new code anymore. Next, I'll be flashing the service firmware by holding all three buttons: volume up, volume down and power. After the service firmware is flashed, it'll ask to reset the phone, and I'll press reset, so it'll do a factory reset at this point. After the factory reset, the phone will power up again, and now when we go to settings, we can see that the test keys has disappeared from there, from the build number, so it looks like the phone is in a normal state now. We'll enable the developer settings again and then enable USB debugging and OEM unlock. Sometimes you need to connect it to Wi-Fi for the OEM unlock option to become available. After allowing USB debugging, you can type adb reboot bootloader and it will reboot into this screen from which you can unlock the bootloader. So you can just type fastboot OEM unlock and then your code which you got from Potato NV. Then after selecting yes, the phone will do a factory reset again, and then the bootloader is unlocked. Now we can actually start upgrading this to Android 8 Oreo, so we'll need a custom recovery to install stock Android Oreo because the stock recovery doesn't want to update it to Android 8. So after enabling USB debugging again, we can reflash TWRP for Android 7. And from there on we can use HUR updater to actually flash the stock Android 8. So we'll need to select microSD card, then find the HUR updater folder, and from there select the HUR updater file. The HUR updater software install will take quite a while, that's normal, and it'll show these unknown command errors, that's also normal. After the installation you can just reboot and make sure not to install the TWRP app. After rebooting to Android 8, it'll take a while for the first boot. It shows optimizing apps, which will be necessary after upgrading from Android 7 to Android 8. After testing the phone with a SIM card, everything seemed to be working on the phone on Android 8, so I moved onto installing the Android 9 ROM. Before installing the Android 9 LineageOS 16, I did a factory reset as well as reset the cache. After making a factory reset and resetting cache partition, I rebooted the phone back into bootloader mode, and from there I could now flash the system, so the LineageOS ROM itself. So I typed fastboot flash system and then the image which contains the LineageOS. After the flashing reports finished, I rebooted again into the recovery and did another factory reset as is instructed on the forum where I got the LineageOS image. Second time after the LineageOS is installed, the wipe data and factory reset doesn't finish properly. It'll show the exclamation mark. That's okay. You can just press reboot system. Again, first boot might take a long while, but it'll finally boot into Android 9. I tested some of the features again with a SIM card on Android 9, and it looks like to be a daily driver quality ROM for me. Some people have reported problems with SIM cards or Bluetooth with this ROM, but for me it was okay for this short while I tested it at least. The OpenKirin website where I got this ROM from and where the installation instructions are is down now, so that's another reason I made this video. So hopefully this is of some help to someone.